Hello and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. I'm Natalie Wood and I have my husband John here with me on the show. We have a project to share today that is run by some close friends of ours. Now, their oldest son went with us on a vision trip in 2007. And I think do we have a picture of Ben?
Yep, there's Ben right there.
In India.
Yep. See, we call it a vision trip instead of a mission trip because on a mission trip, well, there's not a lot of missionary work you can do on a mission trip, short-term mission trip, and this was only 2 months. So we wanted to show the people that were on the vision trip, wanted to just show them what different missionaries are doing and what kind of different mission work that you can do overseas. And so we call it a vision trip. So he came with us to Thailand. We spent a couple weeks in Thailand. We went to India, did an evangelistic series. We had 6 teams at the time, came back, spent another couple weeks in Thailand. And he just didn't come home.
He asked us if he could call his mom
and stay.
And ask for permission to stay.
And the way that he said it, he says, when I saw the need, how could I just go home and live a normal life, knowing that I had to do something to help these people. I had to do something. So he stayed.
Right.
Yeah.
So his parents and his other 3 brothers, younger brothers, were still here in America.
Yes.
And they came to Faith Camp.
They were
helping us. They were staff at Faith Camp.
Set up and tear down, and because it was a do-it-yourself camp meeting.
Yeah, that was big. We had to put the roof on the building and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a story for a different time. But they were staff at Faith Camp, so they heard the missionary stories. They heard the messages about working with God by faith.
Yep.
And they were challenged in their lives. And so a few years later, after Ben had gone, they were Faith Camp staff several years, and then Ben came home. And he got his next 2 younger brothers, Andrew and Jason, and took them back with him to Thailand. And Andrew ended up working in Cambodia. He's still working in Cambodia today.
With the Wat Pre Yesu Tim Maddox project.
Right, right. And he has married a Khmer girl from Cambodia now.
Yep.
So, beautiful young lady.
Yeah.
And Jason ended up working in Thailand. And he just got married recently to a beautiful young American girl that went over there to help also.
Yes.
So that's kind of neat. But anyway, he came and he got the 2 of them and they went over and they started working there also. And Ben was primarily working, and Jason has ended up working primarily with the Karen people.
Yeah, right there on the border between Thailand and Burma. So on the northwestern part of Thailand, on the Thai side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now we want to get on to Leroy and Lisa.
Yep.
Because the next thing that happened was they were asked to go over briefly for Sunshine Orchard for just a few months while the other missionaries had to come home on a furlough.
Right.
And they were asked to go and take care of the place.
Yeah.
And so they went and took their youngest son, Travis, with them.
Yes. So after they were there for a couple, 2 or 3 months, and they fulfilled their obligation, they decided that they wanted to stay because they saw that there was thousands of more villages without any Christian presence at all. And so they found a place in Sunberry, which is you have to go way down south to almost to Bangkok, and then way over kind of west, a little bit northwest, to almost to the border of Burma again. And they found a place there that was owned by another ministry, but wasn't being used, and so there was a grass.
They were invited by the other ministry to use that place.
So there's a bamboo hut there, a bamboo house there that they were living in, and we have some pictures of that. Here's a video of the bamboo house, and this is the little property that they were on. And this is just their living room and dining room and schoolroom. You can see they've got the thatched roof. She's got a piano there. She's got the library there for school, just like a regular home. And on the front porch, they have their little hammock there, and there's little Destiny. And we're going to talk about her.
That was Hannah.
Oh yeah. So it's time to take a nap for little Hannah. So this was their life there in Sunberry.
They wanted to teach the young people that came there how to walk with God and English And so they lived in the same house. There was only one building there.
Yes.
They all lived in the same house. They all had worship together. They all ate together.
Yes.
Very family environment.
Yeah, the focus of the school was to have that family environment. Smaller school, small scale, but really teach them what it means to live a lifestyle, a Christian lifestyle.
Okay. Now they were working again with the Karen people group, and they wanted to fit in with the local population.
Yes.
And so they didn't buy a vehicle.
Right.
They didn't buy a truck or a car of any kind.
No.
They bought motorbikes.
Yep.
And they're not heavy duty, big motorbikes like we might think they would need in jungle roads. They were more like a moped.
100cc, 110cc, and they had a lot of people though, so they had to be ingenious. Ingenious, yes. So they
creative.
So they put a trailer on the back of the motorbike, and they just strapped it onto the seat, and we've got video of that as well.
Okay, yeah, we saw it briefly in the other video, but here we go.
So this is climbing into the trailer. This is Sabbath morning, getting ready to go to church. This is the family van. There's Travis, the youngest one, driving. His mom's sitting on the seat behind him. There's
Holding
Natalie.
Hannah.
Natalie's there.
Yep.
In the trailer. And then, of course, I jumped in too. We're all on our way to church.
Now, we should explain
There's
who
the
these
little
people
church.
are.
Okay.
Oh,
the two getting
too
out
late.
right there, those were student missionaries that joined them for about a few months.
Right, two sisters, Marianne and Jennison.
Yep.
And so
Here's
that's Travis. And Leroy was also in the trailer, and Ben, the oldest.
That's right.
So while they were there in Sunberry, people started approaching them because there's a situation that goes on in Thailand that's it's similar to other countries as well. If a family breaks up or one of the parents dies and the other parent wants to get remarried and they have the children, many times the person they're going to marry doesn't want the children.
Right.
So they will leave them with family sometimes, by themselves sometimes. Sometimes they sell them. I mean, it's just all sorts of things happen.
Yeah, just abandon the kids.
Yeah. And sometimes the parents are drug addicts or alcoholics, or they need to go get a job and they just don't know what to do, so they leave the children.
A lot of opium up in the mountains.
Yeah.
In that area.
So they have had that happen 4 times, that the parents had abandoned these children. So they have 4 little girls now. They had 4 boys, and they're all grown, and now they have 4 little girls. And Hannah was one of them. She was there in the video in the hammock.
And this, this isn't just like borrowing the kids for a little while.
It's not babysitting.
No, this is like taking them on as their own children.
Right. It's like adoption, but they can't actually, bring them to America or whatever.
Right.
And they want them to know their culture anyway.
And so I asked them, how long do you plan to be here in Thailand? And the standard lifetime Adventist or career Adventist missionary is 5 years.
Yeah, how that can be a career.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
but anyway.
But they said, well, they've got to go through at least high school, possibly college. So they're looking at a 20-year commitment.
They're going to raise the girls as long as they raise their boys.
Yeah. And so they're there for the long haul.
Right.
Which is really important, because if you just go for a short time, there's not much you can do. I've seen a missionary that was there for 5 years in Bangkok, and at the end of 5 years, he started to become effective.
Yeah, because he knew the culture then.
Yes.
He understood the people. He had made friends. Things like that. You can't just make friends like, microwave popcorn.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So they're making friends, and as they make friends, then people become curious about their life.
That's right. We have a quote from Mrs. White that talks about how people can raise their families. We think in our minds, to raise my family, I need to go where there's a Seventh-day Adventist school. But this is what Mrs. White says.
If families would locate in the dark places of the earth, places where the people are enshrouded in spiritual gloom, and let the light of Christ's life shine out through them, a great work might be accomplished. Let them begin their work in a quiet, unobtrusive way. That's from Adventist Home, page 489.
Yeah, and I believe that great work would be done not only in those dark counties or dark areas, but in their families, the families of the people that go. Because now you have purpose, you have a reason to pray and ask for God's Holy Spirit, you have a focus on spreading God's Word, not just having a good life.
Right.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
yes,
right next to that property, a village was built up.
yes,
And suddenly their days and nights were full of heavy-duty rock music.
yes.
And there was no peace there anymore.
Right.
When they first moved there, it was in the middle of the country. I mean, there were a few houses,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very peaceful and quiet. When we visited there, it was very quiet.
Yeah. And so they decided that they needed to move, because in a place where there's thousands of villages, thousands of places where there is no Christian presence, the whole countryside is available.
Right. So they went back to Sunshine Orchard for a
Mm-hmm.
while,
Uh-huh.
and then they felt the Lord calling them to one of those unreached places.
Yeah. But Lisa had a bad back. Her back couldn't handle a bumpy road. And so they had to find a place that was remote in the jungle, but no bumpy road. And so Jason went out looking, and he found an amazing place, amazing location, with a really smooth road.
It's a river.
Yes, a river road.
So they would go up and down the river in one of the long-tail boats,
Mm-hmm.
which is a kind of boat they use in Thailand.
Yeah.
I think we have a picture or some video.
Yes, we have some video of them, this is when I visited, just a few little memories of my time there with them.
Okay.
This is her getting out of the boat. That was my suitcase. Now I went out again with Jason, because he went out to collect coconuts. And coconuts were still good. They'd be floating down the river. He'd be shaking to figure out which one was good. These are two little kids. That's destiny. They walk up this handmade trail up to their house, to the school. That's the school building built by hand. There's some of the youth that were there for the school. This
That's
is little
Hannah.
Destiny. Now there's their house. That's Leroy and Lisa's house. Obviously it rains a lot, and this was carved by their own hands right out of the jungle. So they carved this location out of the jungle with their own hands. And I got there in late afternoon, evening, we had a meal. This is the school. These are the students that were there for the school. We had a wonderful worship. And by candlelight, we sang songs.
Because again, they have no power there.
That's right. They had a little solar panel that would be enough to charge batteries, but I had used all their power to charge my batteries for my camera. So they had to go by satellite. And this is the kitchen. The Karen young people would then make breakfast in their kitchen like that, and we would go through the day having school there in the room.
Okay, and they called this one Jason's English Medical Missionary Training School.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
because Jason was the one that found it, and they were given this property by the chiefs of 5 different villages that surrounded this place. I mean, they weren't really close; they're far away. But no one was living here. It was being completely unused. They were given this place.
It was a government property, and so those village leaders were in charge of it.
Right. It's
At least that's what they
it's
thought.
like federal land. But this building is kind of a bit of a miracle story, because this is the second building that's on that same location. The first school that they built, they had just got it completed, like on a Wednesday or something. And then the students, for some reason, most of them were requesting that they go home for the weekend. So they went home, and that Friday morning, a big mango tree that was standing right behind the house that showed no signs of weakness or anything, all of a sudden just fell on that. And this is like a 50-foot tall.
It's a dorm school building that was 3 stories,
Two
right?
stories tall.
2 stories.
There was a little loft in the 3rd story, but it was mainly 2 stories. Just flattened the whole thing.
Right down the middle.
Yeah.
And if any of the students had been in there, they would have been either very injured or even killed.
Absolutely.
And it was amazing because almost all of them went home, and the rest that were there, they were all in the kitchen cooking.
Down at the house, the Sharon's house.
At the Sharon's house.
So they're
yeah.
completely outside the building.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a total miracle.
Right. And so they were like, oh my goodness, it's taken us so much work and so long to build this thing.
Yeah, it cost
What do
them
we do?
$400 to build that building. And they were going, we don't have another $400.
Right.
And then the students came back.
And they used this opportunity to show the students a Christian's response to disaster.
Right.
And they says, well, Lord must have a reason for it. And so
right.
they kept
And He protected all of you.
Yes.
They told them that.
And so they
and
were
the students saw it too.
Yeah. So they started praising the Lord. And within a few weeks, they had rebuilt the whole thing. But this time, it only cost them $12.
Right, because the students knew how to get the thatch, and they knew how to do the bamboo properly.
And the roof, you got to get this right leaf, and you got to fold it just right, and it's got to dry it just right. And in the previous
stitch it
one,
or hook it together, however they call it. I don't know if they call it sewing them or what. But
the previous building, they didn't know how to do that, so they had to buy the roof. That's why it cost them so much, $400. This time it only cost them $12 for like some wire and some nails and stuff. So within a few weeks, they had it built again. The building that you saw in this video.
Okay. All right. We have another video now of them at that place.
So they had been here at this property for about 2 years, and they'd had the school running for about a year, and it's doing amazing work with these young people. It's awesome. Really wonderful young people, and they were just soaking it up, loving. You know, some of them didn't like the rules. They didn't like to live like a Christian. They wanted to just do whatever they wanted to do. Some of them really, really appreciated the structure, and they appreciated the hope that Jesus gave them. And but then some really sad things happened because the government in Thailand changed.
It became the military government.
It became a military. And so, well, we'll let Lisa tell the story.
Okay.
We used to have a mission school, a Bible, English training school down in the jungle. But last year, a lot of laws changed in Thailand. And even though we had permission to be where we were and do what we were doing, one day the military and a lot of officials came down to our school. They let us know that the laws had changed and we were going to have to leave. That it was no longer legal for us to live out in the jungle like we were. So the students had to leave. Then the following week, we were met by another delegation of soldiers with big guns. And they were really nice also, but they told us that we had 1 week to move. That was on a Sunday. And so, of course, for us, that meant that we had actually 5 days because it would have to be done before Sabbath. And we had 3 buildings and 2 bathrooms, a hydroelectric system, and a solar system. And we had to move all of it in 5 days. And it was just actually 9 of us, but 5 were little kids. So we started tearing into the place, and we worked like I didn't think it was possible to work. And we prayed, and by the end of the first day, we realized that this was impossible. Absolutely impossible. So we were praying, we were just saying, Lord, you know our needs. You know, we can't do this. We were tearing apart Mango Hall, trying to get it taken down when we heard a noise and looked outside, and there were 18 brown-skinned angels coming down the path. And by some sort of a miracle, even though there was no communication out there, our students had found out that we had to move in that amount of time. And they came and they brought people that we'd never even met before. And by Friday morning, we were taking the last load down when the military showed up. And they just stood there with their mouths open. They did not think it was possible either. But God is good, and He sent us the help we needed right when we needed it. So we knew for sure that God was moving us. You know, it's not a fun thing, and it was really disappointing. And yet, God worked it out in ways that I couldn't even imagine. For instance, 5 of our students chose to go down to Travis's school and become teachers. And it worked out really, really good because he needed teachers who were really grounded in the Bible and in our beliefs and our standards. And it's really hard to find that out here. But those students had been really well trained after being there for a year, and so Travis was able to keep his school going because we lost our students. So it turned out to be a huge blessing.
So God had a plan.
God had a plan.
Even though they were disappointed, God had a plan.
And it's been very tiring and hard work for them to relocate again. But this time they've purchased property.
Okay.
and they've are actually building on property that they own.
And now they're building a real cement and brick house. Now, why are they having to do that?
With the 4 young girls that they're working on adopting, or that they're taking care of as their own children, in order for adoption or for them to become legal, they have to have a postal address. They have to live in a place with a postal address, and the government won't give a postal address to a bamboo building. So they have to build in cement. And so, of course, the Sharon way.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work, and they do it themselves. And the local people have said that you can go and get sand and gravel and rocks from
the
riverbed. And so they go down there. Praise the Lord, they now own a pickup truck.
Yes, they had to buy a pickup truck to haul all their haul all their supplies for building.
Yeah, because the river is probably an hour away. Mm-hmm. And so they drive down and they shovel they shovel the
rice
sand.
Bags into with the sand.
And they sift it, and then they get the rocks and the gravel and everything. They haul it back up. So all they have to do is buy the concrete, and then they mix it by hand. We've got some video of what that looks like in mixing this in this new place. First of all, we're going to do a little flyover of their property so you can kind of get a feel for
where things are located.
We visited there recently, and one of the friends that came with us had a drone, so we got to fly, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay, so let's watch that.
Yep. This property has 2, in the bottom you can see 2 houses, and now we're looking at the blue house, and I actually got to help a little bit with my own 2 hands. There's Leroy mixing up some cement out in the front. You've got one of the young ladies building the posts. There's going to be some posts out front, and that roof is going to extend all the way out. This is their new truck, and so this is what they shared in. This is going to become the school now. Okay, and then they're going to live actually in this house, and the cement's going to come all the way out past those posts, and all that cement was done mixed by hand.
Those bags there on the right hand side, that's all cement. I mean, that's all sand.
That's all sand from the river. They just brought that up while we were there, and my son James went down there and helped them load it in. But all this is done by hand, and unfortunately Lisa ends up doing a lot of it,
and she has a bad back.
Yeah. And then,
so they're working hard on that.
Yeah, and you can see how the house is built into the side of the hill. When they first decided to build right there, it was all covered with bushes, so they couldn't really see. And so Lisa thought, we'll build here. And then when they cleared the bushes, they realized
it was too steep to build there.
It's steep, so they had to dig. So she and the girls dug all that dirt out. So all the dirt that's in front, that's the fill dirt.
Used to be under the house.
Yeah. It's just incredible. You can see her sitting here building. Leroy and I did a lot of that wall there, but she's coming back, and with a brush and some water, they're making it all nice and clean. So it looks really good when they're done. So you can see this is the way they build those posts. They do it all by hand. They have that little form, and the girls get in and get involved and get their hands cementy.
Yeah.
And this is how they do it. It's slow going, but when they're done, you know, who else is going to do it? They don't have the money to hire a lot of people to do this work, and so they just get in and do it themselves.
Well, we have a little video clip of Lisa talking about some of their needs.
Yes.
I need people who can teach in the Thai schools. I need, just simple English. You don't have to have any kind of education for it as long as you speak good English. But I just need people who will teach, who will care about the villagers and want to be friendly, go visit them, talk to them. When we moved here, they offered us this land, and it's a nice piece of land. We took it. It has water, but we didn't know that people had been killed on this place, and so it was cursed. And so anybody who stayed here should have died. And so simply living here is a witness to the village. And, you know, everybody in every village in this whole area knows about it. Here we are, we're still alive. Sometimes just being somewhere is a witness, even though you don't think of it as being a witness.
So what she meant by that is that there's a lot of Thai schools around the area, and there's a big push in Thailand to learn English. And so if a person can go there and just teach conversational English, doesn't take a degree in education or anything. It's just, can you speak English? You go there and you can help out these Thai schools and be a huge witness, make connections, and do friendship evangelism. It's very powerful. So that's what she's talking about there.
They've had a lot of requests from surrounding villages.
Yes.
To go and teach there, and there just aren't enough of them.
Right. So that's one of the needs that she's talking about, but there's other needs also, and their biggest need is for people to come and stay long term. Learn the language, learn the culture, really connect with the people and start doing this work. And they're in one village, maybe influencing 5 or 10 villages in the area, but there are thousands of villages where there is no Christian and no witness, and nothing is being done for them.
Right, and they all need to know, because Matthew 24:14 says, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world."
Every nation, kindred, tongue, and people.
Every nation, kindred, tongue, and people.
Yeah, and in addition to this, this is the Karen people, and in that area, the Karen are probably one of the most reached.
Right.
Then you've got 110, 109 other people groups just in Thailand alone, plus the other. I mean, it's just, the need is endless. And so what can I do? Well, I may not be able to fix everything, but for just a few, like that boy with the starfish on the beach, and he's throwing one, thousands of starfish, and he's throwing one after another, and his dad's like, "You're not going to throw all these starfish in. You're not going to make any difference." And he's picked up, "But for this starfish, I'm going to make all the difference in the world." And so that's what God is calling us to do.
They do have other needs besides people.
Yes.
They do need funding, because as soon as that dorm opens, they will have students that they need to feed. They need to provide school materials for.
Yep.
And then they do have, the building to finish.
Yep.
And it does cost a little bit. All the welding and the roof cost them some money.
Materials.
And anyway, they do have other needs as well. And if they have to do a visa run, then it costs them money. Sometimes they have to come back to America for visa renewals and things. So they do need funding.
Yes.
And they need prayer.
Yes, lots of prayer.
Because they wouldn't be where they are if it hadn't been for prayer. Lots and lots of prayer, the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and the Lord opening the way.
And when prayer happens back home for the people on the front lines, it builds a wall of protection, spiritual protection around them, and allows them to work. And that's, in countries like this, that's really important.
Right.
Is the prayer. But the way it works is that Jesus for Asia provides financial services for the Sharons and other projects similar to theirs. So when someone donates money to them, they do it through Jesus for Asia. So when somebody donates money for the Sharons, all of it goes. We send all of it. We don't keep a certain percentage for our administrative overhead. We trust God. We camp out on Matthew 6:33 for that need. And God has provided all along. And so if you send $100 to the Sharons through Jesus for Asia, we send $100 to the Sharons, and they can use it on their frontline projects. And we've done that from the very beginning.
Right. I want to invite you to prayerfully consider how the Lord may be calling you to help forward the work of the Sharon family among these precious people. You can send your tax-deductible love gift to Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee. Call us at 423-413-7321 or check out our website at jesusforasia.org. God bless you until we see you again.